It is aired live, and then once the stream ends, it's taken down, and typically the entire stream is available for patrons only. The last 2 weeks, we've taken the time to split the videos into different segments so that if you're looking for a specific topic throughout the video, you can search for those. So what Jamarl is saying that usually we might cover 5 topics on the Patron Appreciation Show, and 3 of them were given or suggested by patrons or contributors. Those other 2 would then be available for all of YouTube. So once I split the videos up, those 2 segments, those 2 questions would be listed separately for everybody on YouTube. So we've had people ask what Patron is. If you're not familiar, Patron is, so like if you're watching someone on YouTube and you say, okay, well, I enjoy their content. It takes a lot of time, effort, and even money to put out continuous content.
All of those things.
So I want to support them. Then you say, okay, well, I support him.
Dozens of
I'm going
bodies
to
have been
commit to
found.
being a patron.
Many more
And
are
that
missing.
means you go to patreon.com, you find his information, and you commit to a monthly contribution. As little as $1 gets you the access and it gets you the commitment. So when we do patron appreciation, or he says consider being a patron, that's what that is. And so once a week on that patreon.com platform, a message goes out and it says, okay guys, next show is coming up, submit your topic. So if you're a patron, please be sure weekly to check in so that you can submit topic suggestions, so we have some good information to choose from. If you're not a patron and you enjoy the content, consider being a patron. If you
Now to
support other
Dire.
ways,
I'm sorry.
thank you. And if you don't want to support monetarily, just give it a thumbs up if you like the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And also make sure you hit the bell notification that's down next to the subscription button. So that means once a new video comes out, you will get a notification. YouTube will say, hey, he's going live. He's got a new video. So you can stay up to date on all the content that he puts out.
Excellent. Couldn't do it better.
So,
And that's done with me trying
Welcome.
to pull up a webpage.
welcome to Patron
That's
Appreciation.
not easy, man.
AKA Contributor Appreciation.
That takes a certain degree of concentration. Like,
I've gotten used to it because a lot of times you're just like clicking all over the place and doing stuff in the background.
well, I have a silent mouse now, so it's a silent click. It's like,
I heard somebody in the comments was like, that clicking is getting on my nerves.
yeah, so the clicking is silent now. But no, it's not easy. Like when something is going on outside of your earshot and you're trying to be in alignment, you're trying to be in the moment, you're trying to be in the now with the audience.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes there's the earshot, you're not getting a notification.
I'm not getting a notification, but then it's also not showing up on your page.
It's live, I promise you.
See, that's the thing.
See right here.
YouTube is real, like, finicky.
It
Like, I
does.
have my notifications icon clearly enabled. Sometimes I get videos. Videos. Sometimes I get notifications. I would say most of the time I get notifications. But a lot of time, I don't.
Yeah, people complain about that all the time, saying that they don't get the heads up that I'm live. And I tend to be live all the time. Like I do videos nearly every day. It's every so often. I have to negotiate doctor's visits in between the week. And so it's like 3 days out of the week. I'm always fighting for 2 of those days. But nevertheless, I do shows all the time. And so not getting a notification is a big deal.
I would say though, like I mentioned a minute ago, make sure you give it a thumbs up, like when you're watching a video. But while we have live, or while he's doing live videos, give it a thumbs up, because there's some kind of YouTube algorithm that makes it pop up more, and it gets shown to more people, so more people can come hang out. So if you are here and you're ready to party with the Progressive Soapbox, hit a thumbs up button.
So while we wait for people to join us, we weren't necessarily going to talk about this, but now that I think about it, I think I do want to talk about this.
What is that?
GalaxyCon. We got the opportunity. Huh? What's wrong?
Oh, go ahead.
Calm down. It's okay. We're good.
It froze. I wanted to let you know that we might have frozen.
Oh, you're fine.
Let it go.
All right. So we went to GalaxyCon, and GalaxyCon was awesome. They had several people from Star Trek that were there, and for the most part, that's me geeking out. And I had a conversation with Trudy though, and I kind of made the point to her that Worf.
Since then?
Yeah, I talked to Trudy, and she said she no longer has a love of Worf
Because of what you told her?
because of what happened. Not just what I told her, what happened. See, me telling her is one thing. So it's not just because I told her. It's more so because of the event it takes.
Because of why are we black? I mean, what's going on in the background? What's happening?
It's pulling up the
okay, so Galaxy
picture.
Con.
Right.
Galaxy Convention.
So this was the Galaxy Convention. Now this is kind of like the Comic Con, but it's Galaxy Con. Think of all the comic books and all of the videos and characters and all of these other things coming together. And all in one place. People in costumes. People dressed up in all sorts of, it's absolutely awesome. This took place in Jackson Ward.
Here in Richmond, Virginia.
Here in Richmond. Now, Jackson Ward is a historic district. And yeah, they have. I love this. It's absolutely beautiful. Downtown could be amazing, but downtown is not amazing. So this is.
Now, we're not going to show this because I'm going to be putting together... Am I not going to be putting together
you are.
A specific one?
You are.
If you're into this and you are not aware, Jamarl launched a secondary channel called The Black Box.
Well, I don't know if that's going to show on them.
It's going to be on both.
Yeah, it's probably going to be on both. But
so we're going to do a nice, cool video and put everything together. And it'll be available here on the Progressive Soapbox and on The Black Box where you can see... So people are saying, what about Worf? Tell the story.
All right, so right here. So this is Worf.
Michael Dorn?
Michael
Is that
Dorn.
his name?
Yeah. So him and I asked him a question early on, and while he's on stage, and I get the opportunity to ask a question because, you get to the point that says, all right, does the audience have questions? So my question had to do with essentially cynicism in sci-fi. Especially with this notion of Star Trek. And to show you what I mean, think of all of the characters in Star Trek. Think of the relationship between the captain and the first officer. It's a loving relationship. Even Chakotay and Janeway, who started off as enemies, eventually ended up in this kind of loving relationship. In Discovery, within the first episode, the woman attacks her own captain using a Vulcan neck grip. And I nearly fell out my chair when I watched that. So there's a certain cynicism that they infuse into these things and make these shows much darker and show, okay, let's show Star Trek in this kind of darker way. They got people doing karate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They focus more on action. Like, where that's not...
That wasn't Star Trek. That wasn't
the original Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't
so he misses... That. I think he somewhat misses the question, even though he starts talking about Deep Space Nine and cynicism that they wanted to infuse in Deep Space Nine, to which I tried to explain, well, wait a minute, I don't have an issue with Deep Space Nine. It took like 8 seasons for them to get to a point to bring that show to the brink of war, in which case I think I heard the audience groan, because were they groaning?
Nobody was groaning. You mean when you asked your question?
The second question.
No, some guy behind me was talking about how like you were like nerding out or something.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't think it was like in a bad way, but he was like, "Oh, that's a real like."
That's a real question. That's like a real question.
Yeah, I can't think of the way that he framed it. It was kind of funny.
I get the opportunity to talk to Worf. I want to ask Worf a real question.
Bob Ramirez says, "Don't confuse the actors with their characters."
I'm not. I don't.
But he was asking him as someone who played
in
this iconic role. How do you feel about what they're doing with the roles now?
Exactly. That's the basic question. Like, if you look at sci-fi in general, these sci-fi shows are dark. Star Trek was this hopeful, emancipatory show. In fact, there was a woman, who stopped me and said, "That was a really good question that you asked." Didn't she?
She did.
She did. And she just started to engage and have this conversation on this notion of Star Trek and how things have gotten darker and everything else. So... it was
That is not that's not the issue. That's not what happened.
What do you mean
afterwards... that's what I was going to say. That's what I thought your issue was.
That was my issue. Yeah.
My issue was Worf was whack. Michael Dorn was whack. So we said we're going to see Michael Dorn.
Yes.
And then we're going to wait. This was at like 2 p.m. Then we're going to wait because Data, I can't think of his real name right now. Data is supposed to be here. Yeah, Spencer's supposed to be here at like 4 or 5. So we went down to this little exhibit hall and we were just kind of walking around. I said, "There's Michael Dorn right there." And they had tables just like that set up. That's cute. They had tables that were set up where you could take a selfie, get an autograph, or have your picture taken, like by somebody else. And autographs were $40 to $50. It was $30 to $50 just to have a selfie taken. But he goes over to Michael Dorn. What the fuck are you doing? He goes over to Michael Dorn And Michael Dorn just looked like he's done for the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he was like, oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
everything I said to him, he was like, yeah.
The picture that they took, it looks like Michael Dorn. It looks like Jamarl was photobombing him. Like it doesn't even look like they're like in the picture together. He was like trying to engage him in a conversation. He's like, oh, okay, all right.
It wasn't like somebody was behind me.
No, he was like, okay, all right. You know, like let's get into position for the fucking picture.
Let's do this.
I got shit to do.
Yeah, let's do this and go.
No,
that's kind of how it was. Let's do this and go.
Spencer was actually having like full on conversations with people. The line was so long because people were having like conversations. He was engaging people, and then we went to Q.
Wait, I'm trying to find
what
Data.
the hell is going on?
Go ahead.
We went to Q's booth.
Oh, there's Data. Okay, Brent Spencer.
Yeah,
Brent
Spiner.
Spencer. Spiner. I'm sorry. Why do I keep calling him Spencer?
I don't know.
Engaging people in conversations, and I'm sitting there. People are standing there like, what the hell is he doing? He's talking to people. He's like literally having real talk. And so by the time I get to him, he's like, how are you? I said, I'm doing fine. And I said, one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek deals with when Data couldn't beat the guy in the game that they were playing. And Spiner's like, yeah. I said, I use that for my show all the time because I like to get across how Star Trek dealt with these conceptual issues. And did so in a way that was contemplative, interesting, and it made people think about society in this kind of third world way. He says, the guy that engaged me in that first show, he said he was the first person that I ever had my showbiz gig with. And he said that guy ends up, he said he's dead now. He said, but he used to have performances in his living room. He said his show, whatever they have commissioning there for like theatrical place, he said the smallest place that they had was that guy's living room. And he said that guy used to literally do shows in his living room. He says, that was a friend of his, and he missed, his fact that he lost. This is what he was doing while I was standing there.
That's why I was in line to get to him for 10 minutes.
He's having conversations.
Then after Spiner, we go over to Q, and he's getting the autograph. Oh, is it Otto or Odo?
That's Odo, yeah.
Odo. He's getting the autograph with Q,
right.
And Q asks him, hey man, what do you do for a living?
Right.
Like he asked him, he engaged him, you know what I mean? And it wasn't just some BS stuff, because like he responded and they started talking about politics. It was cool. I mean, he just was like a cool dude that seemed to appreciate the fact that Jamal was geeking out.
And Q, and he made Delaney, right. Delaney made this point of, he says, he says a lot of the stuff that used to take place in Star Trek was conceptual. Not, these guys doing karate. Nobody's doing karate in Star Trek. Sulu, maybe, but Sulu was the outcast, and it was kind of slightly racist because he was Asian, so he could kick ass. like their episode with Sulu has his shirt off, he's like, with the sword.
I remember one, I was like, why is he running down the hall? Like, he was running down the hall with a sword, and I was like, oh, this is racist. This is really bad.
And by saying that, I'm joking when I'm using the term racist at this point. No, man, I was geeking out. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to actually meet the cast, to meet the characters. And so getting to engage him on his character was fascinating to me. And I'm like, he says, I love one of my favorite episodes is the first episode where you're condemning mankind for the atrocities that were taking place and holding Picard accountable. He says, yeah, we used to be more thought-provoking show. That's not kind of the way the shows are now, and that's sad. That's something that we're losing. And when he asked me what I do, I said, I'm a political pundit. He says, what kind of politics? I said, to the left. He said, are you telling people to vote? I said, well, yeah, I think people should vote. I said, I don't buy into the blue no matter who stuff.
Yeah, and he was like, we got to get this ass. He was like, we got to get this ass.
We got to get his ass out of the office. He doesn't like Trump at all. But that's awesome. Yeah,
and he was like, whoever it takes.
Yeah, whoever it takes.
Jamal was like,
I'm not in that.
Whoever it takes. I was like, he about to fight with whatever his
Delaney,
name is.
yeah.
I was like, he's about to fight with Q. I'm getting this on.
That would have been painful.
It would have been
painful.
I was trying to get the video. Why, you think he would have beat you up?
No, I don't want to have that conversation with Q like that. Like I don't want with Delaney. Like I don't want to get into this back and forth of you got to put anybody in office, man. It's like, well, no, I don't believe you should put anybody in office because the person should represent your interests when they're getting in the office. Yeah, but Trump is horrible. I get how bad Trump is, but come on, let's not pretend that this went off a cliff. Like, this is not the conversation I just want to have with him because I like him as a character and I didn't want to stop liking him because he was saying some, well, Hillary got, she would have won if it wasn't for the Russians. We're like, oh.
No, we didn't get there. It's a good conversation.
I don't want your autograph. Like, I don't want it to go there. I don't want to go to there.
It was cool.
But no, it was awesome, man.
It was a lot of stuff. It wasn't just a Star Trek convention, because somebody asked that.
It was everything.
GalaxyCon.
Yeah, it was everything.
So they had anime stuff there. They had gaming stuff there. They had Star Trek. They had Star
Wars.
Wars.
I walked by the Star Wars booth with my Star Trek shirt proudly. I was like...
They had some really good artists there.
Yes.
We
got some really good background stuff.
I ordered the frames, so you guys will be seeing them soon. Some cool Star work. That's interesting.
Star Wars.
Star Trek.
It's cool. Don't tell them.
I'm not. I'm just saying we got some
good
good artwork, but they had some really good local art. Well, I don't know if they're local, but they had
I don't know if she's local,
artists. But there were so many of them, so many talented people there. But yeah.
So that's GalaxyCon. That was awesome. That is something that don't miss it if you get the opportunity to go, especially if you're like
Z123 ZZ. She says, or he says, "You guys are nerds. I love it." No.
Yes.
I'm not a nerd.
Yes.
I married a nerd.
You know, the wild part. Well, she loves anime, so don't. You know, I'm not a huge fan.
I like Japanese anime. That doesn't make me a nerd. That makes me cool.
No, that's.
That makes me cool. Star Trek
like
and walking around
never late, never on time.
Being a Trekkie is like, that's nerdy.
It's just epic.
But like anime, where I'm watching like people just like
you just like it because you like
each other
Japanese people screaming in Japanese language and flipping out. That's all, and that's fine. I like that myself.
There is, like you would say, a certain gravity that comes with the Japanese language when someone is emotional. I love it.
It's no gravity. It's just funny.
I mean, it's not funny. It's like funny. When they're like
somebody's about to get their head chopped off,
and someone's about to get sliced up. And the energy and the passion.
It's kind of like the hammer of Allah.
Anger that is
in the Middle Eastern thing when somebody is about to get their head chopped off, and the guy's like la 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 la, and screaming with the thing.
That's bad. We're gonna edit that out.
It's the same thing.
We're gonna edit that out.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It. I refuse to watch subtitle anime. Just like anyone cares. I have to watch it where I can hear the Japanese language.
She just likes to get wilding out.
That's my preference.
No, I
picked up a couple of words between that and watching Kill Bill 17 times.
Domo Origato, Mr. Roboto.
That's okay.
That's a song.
Mm-hmm.
No, really, that's a song.
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. She's younger than I am, so there's a lot of these stuff that's beyond her time. So let's get to the news.
Victoria, it does change you.
What?
She says, I married a nerd too. It changes you. It does.
For the better. For the better.
Debatable.
No, that's not debatable at all.
It depends on the day.
Look, man, these shows have a certain conceptual gravity associated with them that allows you to look at your society from a third-person perspective. That's not something that you oftentimes get. Oftentimes you have the American perspective, and that American perspective dominates oftentimes the conversations that we have, and oftentimes even lead to war because people mistaking their perspective for being the perspective as opposed to relative. Third-person shows allow that. Things like Star Trek. This hopeful view of humanity, that's something that we've lost, and that's to our detriment.
Balthazar, thank you for the super chat. I don't understand what he's saying. He says, having 30 to 40 additional years of voice acting as a respected and endorsed profession doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt who? Like Star Trek people? Oh, or like the Japanese people?
Yeah. Voice acting.
I don't know. Trudy, you missed it. We were just talking about you and how Worf disrespected my husband at GalaxyCon. All right, so I think we're done dicking around.
Yeah,
we got about 110 people here.
Let's do the news.
Welcome to Patron Appreciation.
We're probably not going to get a huge crowd because Dore's probably on.
Well, that's fine.
He sucks our milkshake. That's you know what that show is. You don't know what the show is?
I don't really like that terminology.
Sucks out milkshake. It's There Will Be Blood. He's talking about the guy building an oil well and using his oil well to dig underground to take their show. He just started doing shows in the evening. I do my shows all day. He's sucking my milkshake.
Okay.
You're just being dirty, man. Get that dirty stuff out of your head.
ID Warp says Dore is off at the moment.
Oh, okay. We don't
Drink the milkshake, not suck it, says Michael
What's
Cooper.
the difference? Same difference.
Drink the milkshake is
sounds less nasty.
to me.
Sounds
Jimmy Dore is sucking our milkshake. That's not.
All right, fair enough. Let's.
We're gonna edit that out too.
All right. So, what's the first story?
First story today is coming from patron Nathaniel Farrier.
Okay.
He wants us to give an update and talk a little bit about climate change, all of the hell that is opening up on Earth, things going on recently in the United States. I think he just wants kind of like a general update.
Well, the UN panel. I mean, I gotta be honest. I don't have rosy prospects here. Like, I think the problem here is that it's so big that people can't contemplate the problem. Like, it's
climate change.
Yeah, right. There's such a catastrophe that is taking place that is going to affect the entirety of the planet Earth. It's like, okay, and people get dispirited when it's something that seems to be so insurmountable that they can't do anything about it.
Right, so, because what am I going to do?
What am I, as an individual, going to do to affect this massive thing?
Global issue?
Yeah. So you look to governments to come up with solutions to figure out. It's like, look, we need to make a change. Half of climate change is caused by environmental factors, meaning like oil and gas industry and those type of things. But the other half is from what we eat. That's the harder part, and that's the conversation no one really ever has. Are we really going to change animal agriculture in order to cut down on the negative effects for climate?
I do keep seeing people who are like, go vegan and say,
save the world.
Yeah.
Because they have a good point on this. Now, granted, they're looking at it from the animal standpoint of we shouldn't be killing these animals.
No, they're looking at it from the amount of pollution that animal agriculture. The ones that how are you going to tell me what I saw was trying to say?
Oh, listen to what I'm saying.
I'm saying that I have seen ads that are saying what you say, where they're saying go vegan, cut out meat. Even in the article that I have.
I understand that's what the ads say. But when people are making that argument are often looking at this and saying they're vegan for moral reasons and they want to find other reasons to get people to not eat meat.
I'm telling you that there were people saying...
I'm not saying that's not what they were saying.
The dog he
doesn't feel well.
Is sick.
You want to check on him?
I'm listening to see what's going on out in the hallway, so I apologize.
Go ahead, check on him. Go ahead, check on him.
Balthazar, he says, in Japan, being a seiyuu, which is a voice actor, is actually a profession and has been for decades, while in the U.S., they've hired famous actors to voice roles as a marketing gimmick since Aladdin.
Yeah. Go check on him.
I could see that. All right, I'll be back. Gotta check on my child.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, he's not feeling well.
You gotta do the article about climate change.
I do the climate change one. Yeah, he's not feeling well. Bo's been sick at the stomach.
Nobody wants to know.
Oh.
You okay, big guy?
No, he's not okay. Yeah, he's feeling really miserable. But let's do the climate change one. So, ultimately, they've said we've had 12 years to get our house in order. Now, that 12 years, however, was not you have 12 years and then get your house in order. It's like you have 12 years to get your house in order. And if you look around, do you really see major systemic changes that will negate that? I don't necessarily see those major systemic changes, even though there are people who are trying to work in the sense of like batteries and windows and trying to find other ways to generate energy outside of the typical fossil fuels that we've been using. That said, fossil fuels have not necessarily gone unabated. They're still being used in tremendous amounts. Even if you stop today, there is like 10 years left of heat that's going to be packed. Meaning there's still 10 years left of heat based on the fossil fuels that we've been putting into our environment. Not to mention, according to Guy McPherson, that even if you stop today, there's a certain hazing effect that takes place from the usage of those fossil fuels, meaning that if you stop, you get rid of that hazing effect. You get rid of that effect that lowers the temperature, in spite of the fact that those same things that are lowering the temperature are creating a overwhelming increase in the temperature. I don't have, great feelings about the climate change stuff. That said, I don't have this belief that you don't do anything about it. When the UN also came out with this notion that biodiversity in this world is being adversely impacted. They shied away from using this term extinction, but it does seem like humanity has been an extinction event of various species have been taking place under our nose. Now, what do we do about this? Money is not real. I often say that, and you can say, well, why are you flipping into this thing of capitalism? Because understand the impetus here is in our society is to maximize profit. How do we get as much profit as we possibly can get? How do we get as many dollars and put it in our pockets? Missing the fact that cash is just a figment of our imagination. It's a legal fiction of sorts. The animal species that are being driven off the planet are not real. Those are real, meaning the ones that are dying out. Those are real. The environmental changes that is going to cause people to have to move from point A to point B, those people that have to live in those situations that they didn't themselves cause, those people are real. Those people are real. I guess my point is, the people that are going to be adversely affected are real things, but they're being adversely affected for something that's not actually real. Our world is at stake. Literally, our scientists are telling us our world, or let's say our ability to live on this planet, is at stake. Do we do something about it, or do we continue to pursue profit? In pursuit of profit, a company would say, we love globalism. And because we can get, let's say, oranges for dirt cheap in China, even though we can make those oranges in Florida, or we can make those oranges in California, they get them imported, which means that they have to truck those things from one side of the world to the other side of the world. The fact that that destroys the environment doesn't fully factor into the cost. In fact, it doesn't factor into the cost at all. The only thing that factors into the cost are the things that you can weigh with dollars and cents. The other costs, meaning the carbon that's put into the atmosphere, the cost to the fisheries, the cost to the environmental damage to get those things from point A to point B is never factored into what takes place. I'm saying, how do you get a society that's built that way? I mean, even from the standpoint of the items that we use, think about consumption. Our goal is to consume as much as possible, meaning a company tries to consume or get people to consume as much as possible of their particular products so those people can go back to use those products again. So you have a laptop that gives out in a year or two, as opposed to something that lasts a little bit longer and you kind of can change the laptop. You have cell phones that give out in a short period of time, a year or two. Again, all of these things, because these little components, as much as it takes to mine those components and to build those things, the environmental damage doesn't apply. What applies only is how much profit I can make off of this. And I can make more profit off of it if people have to get rid of it within the course of a few years, as opposed to it lasting longer. There's a fiscal incentive for the world to be arranged in the way that the world is arranged. The problem is that fiscal incentives collides with this notion of a planet that needs to be lived in a sustainable fashion. Yeah. I don't see this change happening. I mean, even going along with this notion of the Paris Accords, it was woefully underwhelming, and certainly wasn't going to do anything to change what we have in front of us as a catastrophe. I don't know how that changes, and I don't see that changing. That said, it doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible. It just means that it's difficult to do. My wife and I sometimes get into these conversations and she's like, well, you seem to be against it. I was like, no, I'm not against it. I'm just kind of listing out the problems associated with it so you have a clear idea on what you're trying to take down. This is no different. If the countries of the world came together in the sense of we're working towards sustainability as opposed to working for maximization of profit, you may be able to find a solution to the climate change issue. But there is no capitalistic solution to it, since it's the capitalistic solution or the capitalistic thing in and of itself that promoted the problem, or at the very least propagated the problem. I hope that makes sense. Robin Williams was paid something like $70,000 for voicing the genie, and Disney still disobeyed the wishes and used his image for marketing. Wow. That sucks. Yeah, that sucks, Balthazar. But, from the standpoint of that major corporations, they don't care. Can they make a buck out of it? Yay or nay? And if the answer is yes, they're going to run with it. All right. So we have the next one. I've been doing videos on this, and it has to do with Assange. As you know, Assange is not doing well. He's physically ill, apparently, in Belmarsh prison, and they moved him to the medical wing of the Belmarsh prison. Belmarsh has been described as the Guantanamo Bay of the UK. Like, it's not necessarily a nice place. For somebody who was put there, supposedly out of issues of bail, this seems somewhat extreme. The 50 weeks in and of itself is somewhat of an extreme sentence, again, for somebody who was put there supposedly for skipping bail. Assange had no issue with engaging with Sweden in the quote-unquote rape charge. Zero issue. He had one complaint, one item that he wanted. Don't send me to the United States. Give me assurances that you won't send me to the United States. They would not do this, in which case he sought refuge in an embassy for protection from political persecution from the United States. Now, people don't like to look at it that way. They don't like to hear the United States is trying to politically pursue and politically persecute somebody. But what else do you use in these terms? I mean, ultimately, Assange was out there publishing factually true information that has never been found to be false. And there were certain issues that he put out that they didn't like. The CIA files, for example. It was embarrassing for them to have their hacking tools, the people know that their hacking tools were leaked and released. And not just that, to be able to see that the CIA had essentially built the NSA inside the CIA and the things that they were doing to attack other governments around the world. That was embarrassing. I mean, but you can go down the list. The fact that the U.S. had been spying on everybody, all of its citizens, including world leaders. Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. The fact that they killed the Reuters agent and then this was exposed, that was embarrassing. There are several things that he published that the intelligence community within the context of the United States did not want published, and this came across as a persecution. Yeah, he was seeking security from being extradited to the U.S. He was in an embassy for nearly 7 years. God, that's hard. That's extreme. Like, that's extraordinary. But in being in that embassy for 7 years, they were able to essentially bribe Moreno, and in bribing Moreno essentially allowed him out, allowed him to be taken out. It's hard to know what to do to help him in this case. You okay?
I'm back, sorry.
I could hear him when he was getting sick. That's what's like, check on him. You any better? And we don't have anything to settle his stomach. I can have a promethazine, but
you can't give that to my baby.
I don't know if dogs take that.
Can I come back on?
Yeah, hold on. Let's do.
Did you read the article with all the specific stuff?
I talked about the climate change stuff. All right, come on. Where is it? I'm sorry. There we are. Come on. All right. So we did the climate change stuff, but I was moved on to Assange.
Okay.
And this is the Action for Assange. Who who requested this one?
Action for Assange came from Andrew Zygmunt Smith. He wants to know, what can your viewers do locally, # Action for Assange, to support Assange, to show solidarity with Assange. That's what he wants to know. We talked once before about all the protests that were going on.
Yeah.
We even showed the website. That was a couple of weeks back. But he wants to know, do you have any specific suggestions?
So, that's a tough one. I had to be honest, that's extremely a tough one. Because before you came back in, we were talking about everything that kind of brought us up to where we are now. And where we are now in this kind of extradition fight between Sweden and the U.S. Because both the Swedish prosecutors now revamped their case, and now they're trying to get Assange
And that
extradited.
was for the sexual
Supposedly a rape
assault?
case, yeah, sexual assault. Now again, they dropped this case once before, and not just dropped this case. Assange had made himself available to talk about this case while he was in Sweden, and again, his only thing was, don't extradite me to the United States, and that's the one thing that they wouldn't agree to, meaning they probably were. I've argued that whether the extradition bid for the United States or Sweden gets called for, it doesn't really matter. Both of those are going to end up in the United States, because I suspect Sweden will extradite him to the United States if given the opportunity. So this is kind of like if the UK doesn't do it, then maybe Sweden will do it. And we're talking about 150, 180 years, like some obscene amount of time for publishing journalism. And he's going after publishers.
Yeah.
So this is not just some quote unquote hacker. This is a publisher. What to do on this? I've argued.
What can I do?
This is going to be an unsatisfying answer.
Uh-oh.
But I've often argued that solutions to problems are often rarely at the point of the problem. Like, if the thing for Assange is being persecuted, and Assange is being, this thing of political persecution to Assange, or Assange is not even in the United States. He's not a U.S. citizen. And so what happens in the U.S., in this case, does this really affect Assange? And aside from that, even being in the United States, even if you were able to organize, let's say, some kind of protest, does it really affect what's taking place in the UK? That's what I mean when I say this is not something that's solved at the point of the problem.
Are protests done to raise awareness?
Yes.
Create outcry?
Yes.
So, get it in the media so that people are less inclined to, go forward with.
But at this point, it isn't the media, because the media's head is also on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Like Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow, people who are not sympathetic to Assange at all has now come out saying, okay, we got to do something about this because they're, these guys are trying to get us. New York Times, Washington Post, all of these guys have come out with stories now saying, whoa, this is affecting us, and we have problems with this. And not just that, when we're talking about doing something locally to affect it, we're talking about locally with this notion of affecting something that's a national level. So it's not that straightforward. So I would imagine you can pressure politicians that are in the House of Representatives. You can try to pressure the ones that are in the Senate to try to get them to pull back on it. But the person who's going after him is Trump.
Yeah.
So it's
what are you going to do individually to affect Trump's decision on this?
Right. I'm not trying to make this dire. I'm just trying to make this point that the issue here is somewhat of a political one, and all of the protests in the world is not necessarily going to get Trump to change his mind on this particular issue. At least I don't think. I could be wrong. That's not to say that you don't try to raise awareness in the various politicians, especially politicians that may be that you may be trying to that you're in the camp of. Like if you're a Democrat, you may try to push that Democratic politician to be more inclined to be assisting the Assange than against them, like that type of stuff. But again, the point is to what end? Who are you going to move on this issue, and how are you going to move them on this issue? And I'm unclear on that answer. And again, so I don't want to make this. Maybe I look at this kind of like recycling, where it's like, yes, it's good, but does it really change the overall narrative of things? No, I don't mean to be.
Is it really going to impact?
Yes. I think people do it to make themselves feel better. It's kind of like when they throw the can in. It's like, yes, I'm a great human being. I recycled. And you shits didn't do it. You feel better about yourself.
Is that what you say when you throw a can in the recycle bin?
That's what everybody says.
That's not what I say, but okay.
That's what everybody says, babe. But my point is, does it really do anything to the larger world, per se? The issues of climate change are larger than just the individual recycling. It goes into like 70% of the companies calls most of the, it's only like a few companies that cause like 70% of the climate change. I feel like the protesting on Assange thing is the same, even though it does show solidarity with Assange. It does show you're not alone. On that part, yes. 1,000 times yes. And you can argue that in and of itself is enough of a reason to do it. Does that make sense? If you're sitting in a prison cell somewhere and the only thing that you did was publish factually true information, you may feel good to know
that there are people that are with you,
yes,
that are out there fighting for you.
Yes.
At least.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about doing something locally, it's not necessarily doing something locally with the aims of changing the political situation for Assange. It's more so changing the situation for the way Assange perceives it. You're not alone. We love you for what you've done, and all of these people are saying horrible things about you, but we're still here backing you. That is something to be said about that. You know. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy Dore, one of these people who has jumped on the Assange bandwagon, kind of, in this kind of backwards way, is Chuck Todd. Now, Chuck Todd is not doing this. I've often said Chuck Todd is the most oblivious man on the planet, because I think he is. And he epitomizes everything that's wrong with mainstream media. I don't understand why Chuck Todd is considered a journalist. I consider him a talking head. That's all I consider Chuck Todd. Mm-hmm. But Chuck Todd, as a talking head, has found this strength within himself to proclaim who is and who is not a journalist, as if he is a journalist that can make these determinations. I find this to be amazing. Take a look at this video. Dore talked about this, and I couldn't find this video in the time frame allotted. So
I like that polka dot shirt.
I like that. No, I don't like that polka dot shirt.
Oh, okay.
Don't give me one of those.
I'm not getting you a
That's
polka dot
grotesque.
shirt.
It puts me in the mind of do you remember the Galaxy game where you're shooting those things out of the sky? That's what it looks like, right? I mean, that's what those look. It's like each one of those little things look like those little goblins that are flying from the sky.
About.
Yeah,
Spaceships.
Yes, the spaceships.
Goblins. Okay.
Right? You can't unsee it now, can you?
I feel you. But that's,
You can't unsee it. It's there in your mind, a splinter in your mind. All right, let's take a look at this.
Not a journalist. So why
You're
accept that Assange is a journalist when it ruled that both the New York Times I'm seeing on Thursday the federal government
the dumbest guy. I mean, it's not a news guy. William Hurton brought
with reading between the lines, and I have a serious problem with what I'm seeing. On Thursday, the federal government indicted WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange on 17 counts of violating the Espionage Act. And among them, he's accused of, quote, disseminating classified materials. Disseminating classified materials. The DOJ clearly believes that's espionage. But in this case, it's not. It's journalism. And you know...
what? He got it right? The DOJ says that espionage.
Pentagon Papers. And
Wow. So I'm like, oh my God. There must be about Julian is the one.
this is where what's between the lines gets really ugly. Because this indictment seems to put journalism itself in the crosshairs, and it looks like it's been done on purpose. Because if we accept that Assange is a journalist, then this indictment becomes a full frontal assault on the First Amendment, and we as journalists have no choice but to defend him on those counts in order to defend ourselves and our institution. But Julian Assange is a hacker, not a journalist.
Wait a minute.
How does Chuck Todd get to make that proclamation? Think about what Chuck Todd just said. Chuck Todd literally just said, Julian Assange has gotten this information and published this stuff. The DOJ is going after Assange for his publishing capacities, etc., etc., etc. And he's like, but he's not a journalist. He's a hacker. How do you know? I mean, they've shown him hacking nothing. The only thing they've ever shown Assange doing was publishing information. And Todd himself says, what they're getting him for is exactly what we do as journalists.
Right.
It's what publications.
But he's a hacker.
But he's a hacker.
Not a journalist.
I haven't had one trial. I haven't had, none of that stuff. But he's a hacker. Chuck Todd would not be able to substantiate that at all. One iota. But he out there screams it. Why? Why does he scream that so? Why does he assert that so? Why? Everything that we know of WikiLeaks, Assange has just published information that he was given. If he tried to push people to give him information, it's like if you knew somebody had access to Trump's tax returns, you say, hey, why don't you publish them with me first? Well, why wouldn't you do that? You're a journalist. Your goal is to get that information out and publish it. And WikiLeaks' job is literally shining daylight on the stuff that's in the shadows. What the hell is the most oblivious man in the world saying? I mean, he literally just said the capacity that he's been doing is essentially journalism, but
and then the very next sentence,
he's not a journalist.
He's a hacker.
It's like his brain can't resolve the two. He's like, oh, you got Hillary elected, you bastard. What is going after me.
Why does he have? It seems like he has to hit him.
He has to. It's like he can't.
It's like I think that everything that's being wrong to him is done. I think that he should be allowed to do what he's doing. But he's not really a journalist.
He's a hacker. Well, it's not even that. I mean, because if you call him a hacker, then you're okay with him going after him for charges of hacking. So for them, the first charge was okay. When the government was going after him for hacking, so we don't care, whatever. Then they added the publishing stuff. Whoa! That's us. That's me. My coffee is so hot. The suit's so warm. You're going after me.
But he's just a hacker, so it's not you.
Well, that's his delineation in his mind.
So what does Jimmy Dore say?
Let's see. Of course, Jimmy Dore is going to be...
Saying what you're saying?
Yes.
Fuck is Chuck Todd talking about?
Fuck is Chuck Todd talking about?
You're the hack, Chuck.
No,
so
Chuck.
Close.
So that's a hack. You're a hack, Chuck. Julian Assange is a journalist. That's why he wins awards, and that's why you get a paycheck from the military-industrial complex.
Ooh, burn.
Do you see the difference?
That is a burn, and that is absolutely, unfortunately, true. One guy gets a paycheck, the other guy's sitting... Like, if you had to look at the scene between the two things, one guy is being persecuted for releasing factually true information and is being chased to the ends of the earth, literally, because he's releasing that true information. If the guy they're going after him because he's putting true information out, and you're like, whoa, what does that make you? Like, nobody ever really engages that point. If what he's putting out is true information and you're going after him for it, what does that make the people who are going after him for it? It's like this body of lies that we need to maintain, and you're hurting our ability to kind of lie to the public and all. That's a gross notion. That's a really gross notion. And yeah, Chuck Todd is a hack. Like I said, the most oblivious man on the planet. I can't believe, I don't fully get their animosity towards him. But when you look at the scene, one guy is being chased for principle, and the other guy's collecting a paycheck, shitting on the guy who's being held up, being chased to the ends of the earth. If you look at the two, one guy's resisting power, is fighting power, is shedding the light on these dark corners in regards to power. The other guy is the people on Hunger Games, the shiny person on Hunger Games getting a paycheck. That's who Chuck Todd is. Am I wrong? He's just like glistened up in a way, but he's halfway glistened.
Definitely not glistening.
He's not glistening, but he's halfway glistening. He's the guy on Hunger Games. He's that announcer who's like, yes, let's bring her down. You two have this love affair. He's that guy. He's that guy. He's whatever power wants him to be. He's a shapeable factor. If we were attacked by the Nazis, Chuck Todd will be the guy working at the Vichy government, helping the Nazis with propaganda campaigns. I'm telling you, he's just a paid hack. I'm just saying. One guy, there is something wrong with this notion that one guy is standing on principle and the other guy gets to shit on the guy who's standing on principle and gets to even go so far as to try to define what he is, when all testament to the otherwise. He's a journalist, clearly. It's what he's doing. So yeah. As for Action for Assange, it helps his morale. From a standpoint of trying to get something done in a governmental sense of giving him to let him go, that looks like something that's going to have to take place in Europe. Yes, here in the States too, from the standpoint of support, but that sounds like a European thing. Yeah. They're going to be fighting extradition for the next 2 years.
I'm curious, Andrew. I know he's going to watch this eventually, even if he's not now. He was sending some messages. It looks like he's actually trying to do something on his own. So I'm curious if he has suggestions. You know what I mean?
If he has something, just let me know. I will publicize it.
Outside of just the usual protest kind of thing.
Yeah, I would totally publicize it if he has something for it. I find this to be a big deal, man. And it seems like the only time it's a big deal for the press is when their heads are on the chopping block for it. Because up to that point, it didn't seem like they cared all that much.
They're like, oh, Assange, whatever.
Yeah, but now you see them talking about it everywhere because, again, this is going after them. Another one of the subscribers pushed a video, The Breakfast Club, with Elizabeth Warren.
Yes. Mike Sarvis wants to talk about the
Disastrous,
catastrophic interview Elizabeth Warren had on Breakfast Club.
Word.
Look who put this video up. GOP War Room. This video is disastrous.
We watched one a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, about Kamala Harris having a bomb interview.
Which they asked her
Kamala
about pot.
Harris.
They asked her about marijuana, and she was like, "It makes people happy. It makes people happy." I mean,
She got a lot of shit for that video too.
Well, she was a prosecutor locking people up. I mean, laughing at truancy, like, giggling. She has a giggling issue. Like, she starts giggling when she's talking about really heinous things. I used to lock that homeless mother up for truancy. You've never seen that video?
You sound like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
She seems so happy about it. She's talking about a mother who's homeless, who has trouble keeping her kids intact. And she's talking about putting mama in prison for truancy violations. And she's giggling about, this is a really serious, grim conversation. You're a prosecutor saying, I'm going to put you in prison if you don't keep your fucking kids intact. Now, clearly this woman, if she's homeless, is already having other troubles that are affecting the kids thing. This is not entirely something that is in her control at this point. So you threatening to arrest her. All things being equal, I would imagine that she would want her kids to be in school. Clearly that's not her issue. So her giggling about it just seems so weird.
Well, let's go to war. I haven't seen this video.
You haven't? Oh, this video is awesome.
The lighting is weird. Okay.
This video is awesome.
Let's see.
All right, let's see if we can fix this.
No, because when I did this, it did something. Oh, that was better. All right, let's see the video.
All right. Elizabeth Warren goes onto the Breakfast Club. Now, this is with Charlamagne the God and all these other guys. These guys are notorious for asking people off-ball questions. Like, it's awesome. People like Tulsi Gabbard, Sanders, these guys can go on these shows and hold their own, because they're more inclined of ask me anything, I can deal. Sanders is that way. Tulsi is definitely that way. Elizabeth Warren, not so much. Not so much. So you remember Elizabeth Warren decided to not go on Fox News for an interview. I think that looked magnificently weak. And I think I've said as much here. But she goes on a Breakfast Club. Now, Breakfast Club puts you in the mind of Joe Rogan. I don't know if you've seen Joe Rogan, where they ask you anything. Now, Joe Rogan will get you there for 3 hours and ask you anything. And so politicians, that's a hard way to go because you don't know what he's going to ask you. Elizabeth Warren goes on Breakfast Club. What do you think they're going to ask her about?
Elizabeth Warren? I don't know. Let's see. I want to see.
When you said you were Native American.
Well, I was going to say I see the top, so I see the topic.
When you said you were Native American, they asked her if she was the original Rachel Dolezal. You know who that is? The woman who claimed that she was black?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He said, are you the original Rachel Dolezal? Let's hear it.
I want to clear up some stuff because, there's a lot of criticism that's said about you. So I want to give you the opportunity to speak on these things. The Native American thing. Do you regret taking the DNA test?
Look, I can't go back. But
you got to explain to a lot of people that don't know. Now, you came out and said that you were Native American
long ago,
and they found out that you weren't, and people were very upset about that.
This ain't for the people who don't know.
No, but a lot of people don't
have that much time
because we're putting people up to her as well. So go ahead.
So I grew up in Oklahoma. I learned about my family the same way most people learn about their family, from my mama and my daddy and my aunts and my uncles, and it's what I believe. But I'm not a person of color. I'm not a citizen of a tribe. And I shouldn't have done it.
If you had a chance to do it over, would you?
I can't go back, but I shouldn't have. But what I can do is try to be a good partner.
All right.
A good partner, like in her relationship?
Well, here's the thing. Up to this point, she's like fidgety. She clearly doesn't want to have this conversation. And Charlamagne is like, why you do that? Why you say you were Native American? And she's like, well, I grew up in Oklahoma. Now, I don't see anything sinister with this part. Because I think of how my family is. And my grandfather was Native American, but we knew he was a Native American. Like
that's what you heard, but you don't know.
Well, he had curly hair. He had high cheekbones, didn't grow chest hair, all of these things. And he just so happened to know who his grandfather was, who was a full-blooded Native American.
Elizabeth Warren knew her people.
Well, clearly she didn't. My grandfather was clearly Native American. So I grew up knowing this. Now, we believe that there is Native Americans on my grandmother's side also. But keep in mind, this is Richmond. This is home of Confederacy. So this is like between Native American territory. We have tribes just a few miles from here. So that's where we're coming from. If she grew up in the same area, there might have been whites who said, we have Native American in our family. and she might have never challenged it. Like she might have just grew up believing that. In which case, she wrote it on her other stuff. Like, yeah, I'm white, Native American. I'm white in this. I'm white. But that's where it gets a little dicey, though. Do you really bind yourself to that so much that you consider yourself both? I never did. Like I grew up, I thought I was African American. I never put African American and Native American because I never experienced living in both. Was she really putting this stuff on all of these things? Like that's where it gets weird to me. Like, do you does that make sense? It's like you grow up experiencing yourself as being an identity, white. Does she really had such a conversation about Native Americans in her family that when she were putting herself on these items, she considered herself to be Native American and white? That's where she loses me. Like, I don't think there's anything sinister to it, per se, of saying, I think I have both in my family.
It's like you're using that as a puzzle piece.
But why?
You're using that not as a bargaining chip.
Because she didn't get it.
To get favor.
But what favor did she get out of it? Like, that's the way I get a little dicey.
To be relatable.
Okay, I could see that part.
I'm half black, I'm half white. I'm got some Native American in me. I'm not just some white person. I'm not just some white lady. I got some Native American.
She took a fail on this one because she got baited into taking a test that shows she was not Native American. Donald Trump kept calling her Pocahontas. He kept hitting her on this issue. Like they were tagging her on this issue. So
wait. Jay Scott says Jamarl is a descendant of the sweater vest tribe.
That's real racist. Our people have experienced a lot of racism on this front from people like Jay Scott. It's just whatever.
The Slapaho tribe. Bob Ramirez said you're going to find out that you're 30% Irish like most Southern black people. Clyde says you look like a Cherokee Indian. I don't know if this is
it's like Alsace Cherokee. That's my grandfather's. That's his tribe.
I don't know what a Cherokee is. Somebody said there's a lot of non-Native American people
who call themselves Native American
that don't have chest hair. Because you were like, you didn't have chest hair.
No, I'm joking. Like I'm halfway joking this. My grandfather.
Watch the screen because our lighting is doing some weird stuff.
No, I'm halfway joking when I say that all that other stuff, the attribute stuff. My grandfather knew who his grandfather was, so this wasn't in doubt per se. This is within our within the time frame in which we were alive, if that makes sense. So we're aware of who they were. We can delineate them on a tree. My mom has even gone so far to do so, going all the way back to my grandfather's grandfather, that type of stuff. So we know it at this point. It's not in question like Elizabeth Warren, I think.
Did you have a DNA test?
We don't need one. We need one.
Okay.
I guess my point is, we knew who my grandfather. I knew who my grandfather was.
People.
Yeah,
I know my people.
I know my people. I was alive during the time. Like, it's one thing if we're several generations away from my grandfather, in which case it's like, all right, I think so. But this is one of those things where you know it's a flat fact. Now, my grandmother's side, we don't know it's a flat fact. But my grandfather's, yeah, he was definitely Native American. And yeah, it was Cherokee. So, but the tribe in Richmond, in Virginia, he was from, he wasn't from Richmond. He was from one of the surrounding areas. But that's besides the point. But up to this point, asked her a basic question. Why did you say you were Native American, Elizabeth Warren? And she's like, well,
I shouldn't have done it.
I shouldn't have done it.
I can't go back.
But
I shouldn't have done it.
And that's fair. That's a really good political answer. Now, here's her pivot. She's doing her best to do a political... trying to get away. That's what he's trying to away. He's trying to get away. She's trying to get away. That's what she's doing right here.
Over, would you?
I can't go back.
I can't go back.
But I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do is
do?
try to be a good partner.
Partner to who?
And that's what I do every day. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in the things we're talking about here, what I want to see us do in education is I want to see us get rid of the student loan debt and make an investment in the historically black colleges and universities. I want to see us in housing. Hit redlining head on. I've got the first housing proposal to just smack straight into that. I want to see us in healthcare. Yeah. Address healthcare disparities, and particularly
hold on. Wait for it.
Maternal mortality rates.
Right.
For black women.
There we are.
We got serious problems.
I see you talk about reparations.
And reparations.
So what, your family told you were...
I love that. Because what started off as a conversation about hey, you said you were Native American. I mean, that's kind of, I mean, why did you say that? I mean, you're not Native American at all. Why did you say that? And she's like, look, I can't go back to that, but I can be a good partner for you, Darkies, on issues like health care and yet reparations. That black woman said reparations. Let's go with reparations. I'm just saying, there are things that I can do for the black community.
She was talking about...
She pivoted. That was a strong pivot.
I looked down to look at the chat, and I heard her talking about something completely different. I was like, wait a minute.
She pivoted. That was a strong pivot. She's
a politician.
She corkscrewed. You're like, it's like she changed. She pivoted. That was an amazing pivot. The problem is, Charlemagne is not going for this pivot. He's not feeling this at all. Watch this.
We're Native American?
Yeah.
Charlemagne tells me I'm Dominican, but I don't believe him.
You are. How long did you hold on to that? Because there was some report that said you were a Native American on your Texas bar license, and that you said you were a Native American on some documents when you were a professor at Harvard. Like, why'd you do that?
So it's what I believe. That's, like I said, it's what I learned from my family.
She said, somebody in the chat said that she got, it like helped her get in
some kind of
school
scholarship
and
stuff or
like
something.
that. I mean, she's using this on her legal documents.
And that's the part that gets, like, so that's where I say,
what would you do?
I initially say there's nothing sinister here, but then you kind of ask this question. When I was raised, right, when I was growing up, we always knew that my grandfather was Native American. Like, we knew it. But it would have been odd for me to put that on a license or anything else because I didn't experience life through that lens.
The only people that I know that put another race on documents is like if my father is, if my grandparent was.
If they identify. Like,
you know what I
mean? They have to
like,
identify with the race.
I know, but I guess my thing is it's not like, oh, my granddad told me that his father was an Indian. He married an Indian on this other side. And I'm putting this on my paper, I'm Native American. Those are people who are like, yes, my grandfather was part of the Cherokee tribe. You know what I mean?
They identify with the race.
It's something that is like, it's like known and it's a little closer to home. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like down the line.
Odd. It's like, right. Yeah, that's just odd. That part, that does get me as odd. You're filling out paper for, let's say, the bar. Or let's say for a license. And your entire life, how did you experience life? Did you experience life as a white woman or as a white woman that was part Native American? Like, and why did you experience life as part Native American if you did so? Does it make sense? Like, I'm trying to get to this thing that when people fill out their racial distinction on forms, I don't think they just fill out some random person told me that I was a Native American or indigenous person. I think that's done when it's more so I strongly identify with this particular racial group or this distinction. That's my only problem with what she's saying here. It doesn't really fully make sense to me. It's, look, it may be wrong that I'm using my own distinction for this, but I don't think I'm necessarily, my thinking on it.
I guess my thing is, I have seen my grandfather.
I know my grandfather, but I have no identification.
I guess what I'm saying is, even you, as deeply rooted as much as you know, are not putting Native American on legal documents.
Because I don't identify with Native Americans. Which is my point. If she's identifying with the group, fair enough.
She's identifying with the benefits and the street cred, like somebody said, that comes with, I got some Native American blood in my family.
Yeah, and I think that's problematic. Like, the more I think about this, the less I like it. In which case,
it's kind of like, I bet if it was some African American down the line, would she be walking around talking about, some black, my grandfather was Leroy.
What she get out of it? Depends what you get out of it. The more I think about this, man, the more I talk about this, the worse I think this is. But let's.
Victoria.
They haven't stopped. They're still going at it.
Because he came back around.
She tried to pivot, and he would not.
He was like, "No, come back.
No, come back. Let's let him finish."
When did you find out you weren't?
Well,
why you do it though?
I'm not a person of color. I'm not a citizen of a tribe. And tribal citizenship is an important distinction and not something I am. So.
Was there any benefits to that?
No. Boston Globe did a full investigation. It never affected, nothing about my family ever affected any job I ever got.
Mm-hmm. She didn't get a discount in college.
You're kind of like the original Rachel Dolezal, a little bit. Rachel Dolezal was a white woman pretending to be black.
No, this is what I learned from my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
He said, yeah. He is not violent.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah. He said you're like the
pretend to be
original.
black? Yeah.
Rachel Toast.
All right, white girl.
He said you're like the original Rachel Dolezal. And he's like, yeah.
She's like, no, this is what I got from my family. I wasn't like getting braids in my hair.
He's like, yeah.
Talking about.
Yeah. And he's like, why you do that though?
Yeah.
Why you do that? Why you do that? Why you do that, Warren? Why you do that? You get any benefits from school? Did you?
She said no. None of my jobs were. I didn't get any of my jobs because she ain't saying nothing about school.
Well, he brought up school.
Victoria Borrowick, thank you. She didn't leave any text.
I like it when they leave text. Leave text.
But I think she. Sometimes there are free text. There. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's even nicer.
Sometimes there are the free super chats.
Of all the people who you watch, you give it to me. So, thank you.
Somebody
I appreciate
said
it.
Indian giver. Ooh. That's how Liz got her native DNA. She had a little Indian in her. She slept with him. This is getting dark. I'm not reading these.
Oh, that's wrong. They
said, trying to be fine says, I got you. I remember from last week, trying to be fine. She says Liz was afraid of Fox. She stepped right into
terrified of, yeah, she was terrified of Fox. But yeah, and the funny part is, this is put up by, just so we're clear, GOP War Room. GOP found this video and put it up. Oh God, that was disastrous, man. I mean, he's getting at her. He has a point. Like, he does have a point. Why did you say you were Native American? And see, I would have asked the question slightly differently now that you and I talked about it. I would ask the question more along the lines of, when I grew up, I identified with African American because that's how I grew up, even though we had Native American in our family, and we clearly knew it because my grandfather was clearly Native American. I still didn't put that on my forms. Why did you put it on your forms? Did you really identify with being Native American that much that every random and odd form that you put your hand on, you ended up putting that on? It just sounds weird.
You're trying to be more relatable, more unique. Even if you were doing this like before you were like in politics where it wasn't exactly benefiting you, there are some people, and this is.
Does it help you in school? Does it help you get into college? That's the question.
Well, maybe.
Like,
there are scholarships and stuff like that come from Native American ancestry.
Or, a lot of those things that they were doing from the standpoint of school, especially the affirmative action stuff. Do you know that the majority of that was taken by women? White women, actually. Think about that. When people, American descendants of slaves, kind of makes that point of, look, it needs to be specific to us. They make that point because the last stuff that they didn't go specifically to us. 51% of the people who got affirmative action were white women. That's amazing. Like, that means that the program that you were putting in place that was supposedly to make up for centuries of slavery, brutal, vicious slavery, where you expropriated wealth from a population that couldn't do anything about it.
Wait, hold on. Let me get to these. Gabriel Bad Wolf says, or your nationality be taken by Americans who claim it to be your ethnicity. Pet peeve of people who live in Ireland that have with American tourists. Because there are a lot of American tourists saying, oh, I'm Irish. I have Irish blood. I think that's what he's trying to say.
That's funny.
We have to address this because your friend, I don't know him, but Winkle, the Bernie bro, he says, hey guys, thank you both for the super chat. He says, this will probably be my last super chat before I delete this account.
Why?
Where are you going?
What's
Don't
wrong,
you have
Winkle?
his contact information?
Yeah, I'll hit him up, but what's going on? Why, Winkle?
Are you not going to be...
Well, that's weird.
Pat Hacker says you're not going to be a Bernie bro anymore.
I wonder why.
I'm curious.
I hope you're
okay.
Winkle, if you're still here, why, man? What's going on?
Yeah, let us know. Everybody's like, no.
Somebody's like, bye. Don't say bye. I want to know why he left. Why he's leaving.
That video with her eyeshadow, her eye mascara was very distracting. And she came up and I was like, what is she doing? I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, that's why I switched to another video.
I don't see him. I saw that you did that.
Yeah, Winkle.
I don't see him responding.
Okay, well, if he responds, we'll go from there. But yeah, I strongly suspect that
I'm not reading it out.
All right, I strongly suspect that she has no good answer for this. And so it looks bad. Like any interview where she's going to have this question, it's going to look bad.
You know what this reminds me of? So like in the Black community, when like somebody said street cred, and I keep using that because I think that's a good term. Because like there are a lot of African Americans who are like, oh, you know, my grandfather was white. Or, oh, my great grandfather was Native American. It gives you like some extra appeal in some communities to have.
Like that's the part that I don't get. Like,
okay, so think about, so for example, I'll give you an example. So I have natural hair, very kinky, very coarse, very curly hair. And you see things in like social media that'll say, well, my grandfather was Native American, I have good hair.
Oh yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Even like that as a.
But those were like ingrained. Those were things where African Americans.
Is that like colorism?
Well, I don't know if it's colorism. It's just you have African American community that's implicitly taught that the items pertaining to white is somehow of a higher goal. In which case, natural hair becomes, you know, less than as opposed to straightened hair. And yeah, people with this notion of straight hair versus that kinky hair or, you know, nappy hair. Nappy hair gets to be as a negative. Well,
right.
That's my point.
Because even I'm like, oh, don't say nappy.
But it is what it is. It's just describing the hair itself, the texture of the hair. But it becomes, ooh, why? You know, those are things that are kind of like ingrained in you to some degree, just by the society that you're in.
Right.
You have a
that
society.
Good hair is fine hair or straight hair.
Yeah.
It is not hair that's necessarily curly.
Yeah.
So
I get that. But what does that mean from the standpoint of her though? Like, I understand for an African American community that grew up in a society that vilified things that were pertaining to black.
I think it kind of
is a little bit different from her saying the only thing that I can see that it added is if you're trying to get into school and they may give deference to people of mixed race.
That's the only thing. What I'm saying is, even in high school, I could see someone saying, oh, well, my so-and-so was Native American. My so-and-so was white. My so-and-so was black. Because kids want to be unique. They want to be different. They want to have something that makes them stand out from, you know. So
you think her object was just to be unique and stand out?
I don't know. How long has she been doing this?
Apparently goes back all the way back to school.
I mean, she might have really believed it. And then she was like, you know what? I don't fucking know what Elizabeth Warren was thinking or doing or wishing or hoping or praying.
Somebody might have told
her. It looks shady right now.
What it probably is, I still don't believe it's sinister. What it probably was, if I really had to guess, Elizabeth Warren probably wanted to get into a particular school. And there may have been certain things that have said, if, you know, for mixed races, you might have a better chance. It may tick you up just a notch if you were of mixed race. She might have been told by her family that there was Native American in her blood, in which case she said, fuck it, I'm going to use it. And so on the various applications she was in, she might have used it. Now, this might have been, under normal circumstances, innocent, with the exception of somebody running for president, in which case it was like, wait a minute.
You said you're Native American. Any other kind of benefits.
Any other benefits from it,
right. Wasn't this going on? Look at the video color. While you're doing your gestures and moving your hands and stuff, it looks like a light is flickering. Do you see that? Just pay attention. It's doing weird stuff. Wasn't some of this stuff going on during DAPL? During the whole Dakota Access Pipeline protests and stuff like that?
Wasn't what went on?
Her outing of not being Native American.
Oh, now that part I don't know. I don't know when she was outed.
Where was she during DAPL?
She wasn't out there for the Native Americans at the time, which makes it even that much worse. It's like I'm claiming to be part Native American while simultaneously not doing anything for the Native Americans, getting their heads bashed in. Yeah, it made it worse.
Check your
All right, so let's go to.
I think that was all for the patron suggestions for this week.
Yeah, I want to do one on Sanders.
All right, so while he's pulling that up, I'm just going to give the whole patron spiel again.
Wait, identity. Milking her claimed heritage for identity political points sounds plausible. Yeah, I think that's probably more of what it was. Like, I don't think
my only question was, how long has she been doing this? If she's been doing this since high school, or doing it when she went into college?
When she went into college, apparently they have her on their application.
Right, so was she going for political
Well, that's my point. I don't think it's
that early on.
No, that's why I'm saying I don't think it's. If Elizabeth Warren was like anybody else, and she said, "What do I have that I can use to my advantage to get into college?" Well, if they told her, her family said, "Look, you're a Native American, you have Native American in your family," and she's looking at an application that she's going to fill out, and she's thinking, "What are the things that I have to my advantage that I can use to try to get into the school?" I know. My mom said I'm Native American. All right, so I'm Native American. I'm mixed race, Native American and white. Yes. So in one situation after the next, she may fill that out. But it's not because of political grandstanding at that young age. It's for the advantage that she may get of getting into a school. It may up her advantage or up her percentage of a possibility of getting into a school with the extra mixed race component associated with it. Like, it's only later where she gets into politics where she may start using that stuff for being part Native American. Like, I don't think when she was starting at school,
it was disingenuous.
I don't know if, yeah, right.
She's been doing it for that long.
I don't know if she was disingenuous is too strong. It's just, think about yourself for the moment. You needed to get into school, and you thought that if you put a mixed heritage, you had a better chance of getting in. And somebody told you in your family you were part Native American.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, would that help you? Would you write that in? Maybe, yeah. Especially if you're not thinking that you're going to be running for office later on. So
there's a couple more Streamlabs. Or
Disney
is that
Focus,
from earlier?
No, that's from earlier.
Okay.
That's from earlier.
All right, so just really quickly, because you're not looking at it, but I see it, and somebody said that your camera is set to auto expose, which is why the color keeps bouncing. It's like the lighting keeps bouncing in and out.
Good to know. Okay, I'll fix it afterwards.
So we'll take a look at that. But if you're just joining us, I'm going to do my spiel.
Go for it.
All right, so this is the weekly patron appreciation, aka contributor appreciation show. It started off as patron appreciation. If you're not familiar with what patron is, if you're watching somebody on YouTube and you say, I support their work, all of the time, commitment, energy, funds that they put into being into doing YouTube, sorry, he's throwing me, then you say, I want to support this person. You go to patreon.com and you commit to a monthly donation. It could be $1, it could be $20, it could be $100, whatever you decide. And that just gives support for the channel. And so Jamarl wanted to do something weekly to say thank you for everybody that contributes. And so that is in Patreon. It is through PayPal. It's through the Super Chats. It's through the Streamlabs. So this is the weekly show to say thank you. Usually it's on Sunday, but we had to kind of push it back. But if you are a patron, don't forget to log into that Patreon platform weekly to give us your topic suggestions, because this show is aired live once a week and it is based off of the suggestions from those patrons. Immediately after the show, or a little shortly thereafter, it's taken off of Facebook. It's taken off of YouTube, and it's listed exclusively for patrons. If you are contributing somewhere outside of Patreon, thank you. If you want access, let us know. Shoot him an email. The link is in the description box below, and we'll give you access to an exclusive kind of Facebook group where you can get the content as well.
Perfect.
If you want to send anything in the mail, we get cool stuff in the mail sometimes. P.O. box in the description box below. If you're not contributing monetarily, still thank you for being here. Make sure that you subscribe. If you enjoy the content, hit the like button. When you're watching live videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up, because it makes it more prominent in people's feeds. So we get more people here to hang out.
Perfect. Excellent. Oh, and by the way, these videos get chopped up, so you're not going to get the entirety of it. It's broken into sections now. It's easier for people to find the video that they want to watch. Like, they may want to hear about the Assange thing and not hear about...
Right, because these videos, like, at the end of the day, some of them are like 3 hours long.
Yeah, some of them are long.
Originally, we were just dropping in the Patreon, and it's like, oh, okay, we'll find it.
Yeah.
And so now, which is why it takes longer, just FYI. If you're a patron, you might have noticed that the last 2 weeks, it takes... between 2 to 3 days for it to, I think one of the videos didn't drop until like Thursday.
Clip chat.
Yeah, it takes a long time for me to edit the videos and then process them, because I don't have like a super cool, fast computer that's designed to do that.
I may have to get you one.
So, yeah. So bear with us. They're up soon. And it should be easier for you to view the ones that you're interested in, because they are sorted and by topic now.
Excellent.
So if you're a patron, be sure to check those out, and be sure to put your topic suggestions into the weekly announcement, because
unless you want a bunch of UFO videos, I need your suggestion.
And that's what will happen.
It'd be like, all right, so there was this UFO video about this. All right, and that UFO video was talking about this. It's like, what the hell?
Speaking of, if you're late to the game and you didn't know, Jamarl has officially started a second channel called The Black Box.
Yes.
So there's only one, I don't know, there's a few videos.
There's like 4 videos, yeah.
The link is in the description box below for that.
But those are more, that could be UFO, comic book. It's more, that channel is somewhat of a grab bag of all interesting political, philosophical, third person, etc., etc. That's kind of my playground. Instead of putting most of those videos here, I can put those videos there. So the last video that I want to talk about is an interview between Jake Uger and Bernie Sanders. Now, this interview is interesting for a few counts. The main thing is that Sanders is having this interview because he wants to hit a very specific audience, and he wants something to resonate with that audience. Anti-war. I am the anti-war candidate, and I've been doing anti-war for the last 30 years. That's what he wants to resonate with. That's why he's going to the Young Turks to get it out, because that's the, more lefty wing of the voting base. Take a look at this part, because he gets the opportunity to hit Joe Biden. These guys have been doing their best not to hit each other too hard, because they don't want any of their attacks to be used by Donald Trump in the final election. Meaning, whoever's chosen, the last thing you want is an attack done by Joe Biden to hit Sanders to be used to be, to hit him in the general election. So they've been running in this race in a certain, pity pat, way of going after each other. But in this case, Sanders gets a little bit more strident, and I think this makes the point of why Joe Biden is not going to win in the election. Why he can't win. Let's say, and I could be wrong, but I think he's going to have a hard time getting through the primaries. Let's listen
Creepy Uncle Joe.
Yeah, let's listen to. Well, that's one of the reasons, but there's more. Let's hear Sanders here.
We're trying to do and what we will do. So now let's talk about the race, because it's you versus Senator Biden at this point. You're the top two. So I want to start with a specific issue and then get into the overall race. 1994 crime bill. You voted for it, and not only did Senator Biden vote for it, but he says he does not regret it and that he's proud that he helped draft it. So what is your position on it now, and what would you do if you were president about that specific bill?
All right, so these are lines of debate that these guys are having. Now, keep in mind, the Young Turks is a propaganda outlet for, you could say, a tick to the left of the Democratic Party. So think of MSNBC light. That's the way I like to describe them. They are within Sanders' camp, meaning they like Sanders. Sam Cedar is in his camp also. This tick left to the tick to the left of the Democratic Party. Ultimately, regardless of who wins, they're going to tell you vote Democrat, but their policies tend to be somewhat to the left. Sanders, in this particular point, is going to this media arm to try to get this message to his supporters. One of the lines of debate that these guys are going to have is on that crime bill. That was a racist crime bill. They knew that the crime bill was going to explode the prison population of African Americans, but they did it anyway. Joe Biden was one of the main proponents pushing for this crime bill and is out there.
Didn't he write it? Did he write the crime bill?
It was Bill Clinton working with Republicans that pushed this bill out. But Joe Biden was one of those people that was stomping for it and was strongly pushing for it. Yeah. And even today hasn't necessarily owned up to the fact of how disastrous that bill was.
I think it's funny because even we mentioned last time. Do you want to show us? We mentioned last time that even Bill Clinton came out and said he shouldn't have supported the bill, or
because when Bill Clinton
was problematic.
When Bill Clinton was running in the race, was helping Clinton, he realized that crime bill was a problem with that anchor around your throat getting through the primaries. Like Bill Clinton, at the very least, understood that supporting that crime bill in a Democratic primary was not the best thing in the world, especially with a Democratic Party that has moved further to the left. And African Americans have started taking a higher place in that party.
Yeah. People are saying, there's a couple people saying that, yes, he did actually write the bill.
Oh, did he? I didn't know he wrote the bill. Wow. That's even worse. Because now he has to go through a primary and defend that. And it doesn't sound like he's backing away from that.
He's not.
So this is one of those lines of debate that Bernie Sanders is perfectly willing to have in the primary. And this is kind of my point. I think it's going to be hard for Joe Biden to get through the primaries. He has the answer for this. Like, He's it's like you're pinned to all of these issues. And in one after the next, you're going to be on the debate stage with people saying, yeah, Joe, they had horrible outcomes. And Joe Biden, what is he going to do? Is he going to say,
I stand
by that?
You know.
Yeah. At the time where that crime bill was taking place, Sanders was out there screaming at the top of his lungs that this is going to cause problems and we need to deal with the prison population by attending to the material affairs of the people in the society itself as opposed to just putting them in prison.
But didn't Bernie vote for it?
He did vote for it, ultimately. He's going to explain that, though. Let him explain
Oh, okay.
it. He's going to explain it right here, actually.
As you know, there are bills that come before a member of Congress, and I was in the House at that point, that have some very important things in it and some terrible things in it. That bill had the Violence Against Women Act, which was important. It also had something that I promised to the people of the state of Vermont that I would do, and that is vote to ban assault weapons in this country. In 1988, I lost an election, perhaps, on that issue. So if I had voted the other way, people would say, Bernie, you said you're going to vote to ban assault weapons, and I'd be criticized for that today. But this is the point that I want to make. If you check the record, you find that literally in the days around that bill, I was on the floor talking about mass incarceration, talking about capital punishment and my opposition to it. So it's one of those big pieces of legislation that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So many bad things in that bill, and I spoke out against them. But I could not desert the people of Vermont when I told them I would vote to ban assault weapons.
Do you think Joe Biden is wrong for being proud of that bill?
It's not a bill that anybody should be proud of, not at all. There are certain elements.
So Sanders' point is, look, it was a massive bill. And because it was a massive bill, there are elements of the bill that are good and that are bad. And I have to represent my state. And I told my state that I was going to ban assault weapons. And so I couldn't betray the people of Vermont and not vote for this bill because ultimately my constituents are the people of Vermont. That's his point. By the same token, he was right that he was on the floor of Congress screaming at the height of his lungs that this bill is horrible and this bill has things in it that are going to cause disastrous problems to us later. Because look, if you and I are having a conversation, I can say I'm going to make it illegal for somebody to steal. I can say I'm going to make it illegal for drugs. But if your society is constructed in a way where those people don't have what they need to make ends meet, and drugs just so happens to be one of those things that are booming, meaning high risk, high reward, high cash, then it doesn't matter that you made that a law. Now, yeah, you're going to, in order to substantiate that law, also going to have to pass laws in order to put people in prison. Maybe for putting longer sentences, you're going to have to pay for the jails, you're going to have to pay for the jail cells, you're going to have to pay for the prison guards, you're going to have to pay for the cars. By making a policy in this way, you have created all of these additional things that you have to pay attention to and pay for. Whereas, maybe if I would have maybe not made that law, maybe if I would have allowed people have more resources back, as opposed to 95% of the profit going to the top 1% under Obama, maybe less of that went to the top 1% and more of that went to the people in the society, in which case stealing may not necessarily be something they need to do. Like, there are other ways to go about crime and prevention of crime as opposed to hiring more cops. Hiring more cops doesn't necessarily prevent more crime. Right. It allows you to just put more people in prison. There's a difference in those things. Sanders' argument was that we need to go after these issues in a way that's more holistic and not necessarily in this kind of brute force means. These brute force means aren't stopping crime. Making sure people have food on their plate, can go to school when they want to go to school, aren't starving when they wake up in the morning, when they go through their formative years of life. For that parent and that family to have what it needs, that it doesn't lack. I guess there's a difference in those mentalities. That's all. But yeah, he did sign it. But does he not get points for bitching about it before he signed it?
From who?
He gets points from me. Because what he said was right. I mean, it's not that I love the fact that he signed it, but I do accept the fact that he was right. And it's
all right, hold on. We have a super chat. Let me go back up. It was from Trudy. Trudy says, Happy Patron Day.
What's happening, Trudy?
Bernie, Tulsi, or Green?
Yeah.
Slightly less joyous super chat from Bob Ramirezma. Bob Ramirezma says, Sanders, that old man living in the trailer in the DNC's backyard.
Oh, that's wrong. That's so wrong. All right, there's more. Yeah, there's more. Hold on. Let Sanders finish, because He's gonna ask him about something else. This is Sanders delineating himself from Joe Biden in this case, meaning making this difference. And again, Joe Biden is going to have to run through a Democratic primary that is becoming far more to the left and is going to be filled with youth. Meaning, even though Joe Biden is getting the elderly vote, I'm not calling them geriatrics anymore because people have said that was offensive. Mm-hmm. And I think I slightly agree with him. So fair enough.
I could see that being offensive.
So fair enough. The elderly vote, the old timer vote,
the older demographic.
Yes, the older demographic, the non-geriatric.
Okay, moving on.
But you get my point. He's essentially this is going to be the first election where the youth outnumber the older people that are going to be in the election, meaning that Joe Biden has somewhat of an uphill battle regardless of what the polls say. Not to mention, I would argue it's an uphill battle even getting through the primaries. The arguments that Uyghur and Sanders are talking about here are delineation points. These are points that are creating a space between who Joe Biden is and who Sanders is to a very left-wing audience. Listen to what they get on this thing of anti-war. And I'm going to be fascinated to hear Joe Biden defend his positions on war when they get into the Democratic debates. Oh, that's going to be joyous.
Of it, banning assault weapons, Violence Against Women Act, maybe some other things. But overall, no, obviously no.
So Joe Biden's claim, aided and abetted by the mainstream media, that states as a fact, is that he would do better against Trump. And that is one of the top things, obviously, the Democratic voters are considering. I assume you think that's wrong because you're running against him. So why do you think that's wrong?
Look, the truth is, this is the simple truth. I would not be running if I didn't think that I was the strongest candidate to defeat the worst, the most dangerous president in the history of our country, Donald Trump. Why is that? For two reasons. Number one, we're going to need a lot of excitement. We're going to need a large voter turnout. We're going to have to bring young people, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, into the political process. I think that we are the strongest campaign to do that, to get that excitement, to get that energy, to increase voter registration among young people. Second of all, when you go to states in the Midwest, and I should tell you that virtually all of the polls have me running against Biden, state by state, running against Trump, state by state, and in the battleground states as well. All right, why is that? And why do I think we can do a good job?
This is the electability
defeating
argument.
Trump, because of the issues that Trump beat Hillary Clinton on. Trade. You go to the Midwest and you say, hey, I voted for NAFTA and I voted for permanent normal trade relations with China, which is what Joe Biden did. You think that's going to resonate terribly well in the Midwest? I don't think it will. I led the opposition against those disastrous trade agreements. Do you think going around the country and telling people that I voted for the war in Iraq, which is what Joe did, you think that's going to resonate well with people? I don't think so. That was probably the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. I led the opposition against the war in Iraq. So I think for those reasons, nationally and especially in the battleground states, I think we are the campaign that could rally young people, that could rally working people, people of color, to win this election.
If the Democratic Party selects Joe Biden as
That's the electability argument. Like, if you notice, corporate Democrats often make this argument that, he's going to get beat if he runs against Trump because the people don't want to go that far to the left. Like, that's the argument. So Joe Biden is the right guy because, everybody knows Joe Biden and somehow he's more electable. Joe Biden looks like he's barely running this race. I mean, there have been reports that Joe Biden wasn't even involved over the Memorial Day weekend in running his campaign while all of the other candidates were fighting, struggling. Well, Beto wasn't involved either because Beto was restarting his campaign. But Sanders is making a really good point. How is he getting through the primaries with a record like this? Like, that's his point. His point is electability. He can't get through a Democratic primary that has moved further to the left with the record that he has for the last 40 years. And how does he get through it? Whatever polls you want to show about, what's going on in the race and everything else, ultimately, he still has to get through the primaries. And I still say, when the debates start and he gets on a debate stage, oh God, he's going to fall apart. Did you see the one where they were asking African Americans about Joe Biden, and the guy was like, "We have problems in the African American community with Joe Biden. He was pushing that crime bill, that racist crime bill. He needs to answer for that." And I was like, yes. This was on MSNBC. This wasn't some hack thing. This was just a random thing. And they were in Texas talking about Joe Biden, and they were like, "Yeah, we have problems with Joe Biden in the African American community." I was like, yes. I was embarrassed when all of those blacks voted for Hillary Clinton in the way that they did. Like 90-something%. It's like, why are you doing it? You're doing it just because of what? Because you think you know her? Many of these people didn't even know it. They were just voting for the random Democrat. And you have others who was doing so because they were terrified of Trump. Yeah. And that puts you in the space where whatever the Democratic Party does at that point, it doesn't really matter because you're not voting for what they do in sense of policies. You're voting because you're terrified of the other guy, which means that person can do whatever they want in that office. You weren't voting on policy. You were voting because you were terrified. That needs to stop. That doesn't mean vote for Republicans. Fuck no, that doesn't mean vote for Republicans. But it damn sure doesn't mean voting for any random Democrat. I don't give a shit if Q is pushing for that. Anything to add?
Nope.
Nothing at all. You've not coming at this from a political angle. You know yourself, there's a electability argument that they've always made about Sanders. Like Sanders is not electable, especially in the Clinton race. Oh, she's more electable, she's more electable, she's more electable. And ultimately, Biden is just Clinton with pants. I mean, am I wrong? I don't think that's sexist to say.
Pants, but I feel you. I like to see people who
pink pants.
are
She wore pink pants. Biden has never worn pink pants.
Educated. You don't know what Biden has worn.
Not in public.
I bet I can find a picture of Joe Biden.
I would wager you could find a picture of him in assless chaps before you could find a picture of him in pink pants.
How much you want to bet?
$20.
All right.
Yeah, 1 hour.
If I can find him in
pink pants. And you can't Photoshop.
You're going to try to find him in assless chaps?
No, you just... I'm making an argument that the pink pants thing doesn't exist, so I don't need to just find an assless chaps thing. I just said I'll find him before you find the pink pants. But never mind. You get my point.
I said never mind. So there's no bet.
There's no bet because I don't think there's going to be a picture of assless chaps. But I don't think you're going to find a picture of Joe Biden in pink pants.
So if I find Joe Biden in pink pants,
I give you $20.
Okay.
But you can't Photoshop it.
Cardinum said I used to just make $20. Charles Pereira, thank you. Charles says Trump still is the lesser evil. We're a Democrat now. Venezuela, Korea, and Iran would already be invaded. If Bernie capitulates, hope he gets a stroke. That's
wrong. Look, I understand this argument that Trump is the lesser error. But think of what that means from the standpoint of the political space. Do you really want things that accomplished or not? I mean, honestly, come on, let's have this conversation. I understand that Trump is horrible, and I understand Trump has been horrible on a wide host of issues. But from the standpoint of this country, the Democratic Party literally lost to that guy who's that horrible, and then turned around and screamed that the Russian government has something to do with the fact that she lost. Now, for the last several years, they haven't been dealing with this issue of why she lost, only using the Russians to kind of use political expedience. Why the hell would I vote for that? Like, honestly, why would I turn around and support a party that can't even own up to the fact that they lost a race on their own? Why would I support that? And if I'm backing some kind of corporate candidate, wouldn't I be co-signing the behavior? It doesn't matter who's on the other side of the political space to me. Would I not be supporting that behavior?
But for so many people, that's all that matters to them.
Which is why they're going to end up with the exact same corporate candidate that they've always got. In Game of Thrones, where the wheel still existed and they were looking for a new master of whispers, same thing. Do you really want that process to continue as is? Or do you want something fundamentally different? And I would argue something different. Now, you're going to have corporate Democrats that are going to say, hey, you got to put me in, otherwise you're going to get Trump. And I say, let them fail. Let them fail. Nothing changes as long as they can use the scapegoat of the Republican, the specter of the Republican, to always force your behavior to put in. So if Hillary Clinton runs again in 2020, people should automatically vote for Hillary Clinton in 2020 to keep Donald Trump at that office. They've already rejected her in 2016. But now you have some people says yes. It doesn't matter that they reject her in 2016. If you get the opportunity, vote right. And I'm saying that's nonsense. I'm saying if you really want your society to change, if you really want that change, Not this bullshit way of, okay, we just hate Trump. No, if you actually want real substantial change, the Democratic Party is only going to give you that change when there is nowhere else for them to go. And that nowhere else for them to go deals with this notion of you can't put up a bullshit candidate and shoehorn the corporate candidate in because people are terrified of Trump. That needs to stop. Nothing in your world changes as long as you're not willing to deal with that fact that fear is the thing that prevents you from getting from point A to point B. I don't doubt that Trump is a horrible person. My issue here is that in order for you to get real change in your society, I mean, for fuck's sake, 12 years. They say you have 12 years left. Like, and that's Democrat or Republican, because even if it was a Democrat, Hillary Clinton was selling fracking all across the planet. So, you know, do you believe Joe Biden is going to somehow be different? What's your climate change policy, Joe Biden? Beating Trump is my climate change policy. Okay, great. Let's put him in office. No. There's more to things than just putting in the same random hack in office and expecting something to take place. No. There's something to be said for real change. Something to be said for real change. So, you know, I don't buy into this notion that any hack would do. And any hack will do gives you the situation where you get any random hack because you're willing to settle for any random hack. There needs to be something to be said for a line that you're willing to draw, saying, no more, I'm done with these hacks. Give me who I want, or I don't want to participate. I mean, at the very least, it gets a clear message that there are a section of people that if you don't do X, you will lose. And that needs to be a very clear line. Yes. You know, Medicare for all or bust. That's where I'm at. You know, if Democrats want to take this line of, well, we're not going to push for Medicare for all and we're going to stop, you know, okay, fine. You heard my line. And I think you should have a ton of people lining up in solidarity on that red line. Medicare for all is my red line. If you're not pushing for it, don't come looking for my vote. If you had solidarity among that point, what happens? Does the Democratic Party really say, okay, we're just going to try our luck without this millions of people? Or do they toe the line? Like, I guess I'm making the point that your political space to some degree is based on the acquiescence of the public to get involved in the political space. And part of that is willing to say no. Yeah. To have these parties that is using this notion of the Republican as a boogeyman. Just, look at that boogeyman. Look at that boogeyman. It scares you or cows you into voting for whatever random hack of Democrat. Q saying, you know, whoever it is, any blue would do. No, it doesn't. Not every blue would do. Sanders even says that. Don't get me wrong, he said he'll vote for any random Democrat because, you know, he had to sign it.
Yeah, whoever gets the nomination, but you know.
But he does make that point that not every Democrat will do, especially when you have actual real things that needs to take place. In this interview, he makes a point about a political revolution. And he is right. He is right. Anything to say in response to anything I said? Or anything that you might want to add from people? What are people outside of the political space thinking about this? I don't have any friends. I just do the news. You have other people that you interact with. What have they said about politics when they've brought it up? Have you heard them say anything about any contender?
So, someone told me the other day that they were not voting for Bernie.
Why not?
They wouldn't tell me why.
Did you push?
I said, why not? Who are you voting for? Kamala Harris? And they kind of laughed. And I was like, please don't tell me it's Creepy Joe. And they kind of laughed.
It's your mama.
So, and I said, I know this person is not well versed on Tulsi. So.
She said Tulsi?
No.
Oh.
I don't know who they're voting for, but they ain't voting for Bernie.
They've kept it a secret?
And like next time I feel like I am going to cry because I want to be like, so what?
Were they elderly?
What points are.
Were they over 60?
What points are important to you in a candidate? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, if you're not, like, who's getting your vote based on what?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Are they over 60? I mean, what's their, like...
They're over 50.
I'm curious about why. Like, I tend to...
Because I know, like, last year my dad said, and I'll say my dad because you already put him on blast and said this. Last year he said, I ain't voting for Bernie, man. Man, that man too old. And that was last year, or 2016.
But he also said he would never vote for another Democrat again. Or he wouldn't vote
for
Democrat again.
Right, he said the Democrats lost him. Like, after last year, he was like,
and this was the same person who said,
He was voting blue no matter who.
He voted blue no matter who. And he's now...
So in 2016, but now like over the last year, he was like, yeah, man, they lost me.
But that doesn't mean he's voting for a Republican. That just means that Democrats have lost him. So that's a win for me because that's my only argument. My argument is it's not one or the other.
I don't really have any friends, and because we, the few that I have, because we're outside of the political spectrum, we don't really talk about politics like that. My girlfriend I talk to every day, she's pretty progressive. I think she's voting for Bernie.
Nice. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like the others, I don't really know. Maybe I'll start asking.
Okay. Just curious. You have to do organizing for Sanders thing, so you can talk about it.
To do.
Yeah. All right. So that is awesome. I'm going to end this here. Then I mean, I don't think we have anything else, at least not on my list. Guys, I really do appreciate you all showing up.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's everything on my list. I mean, climate change, Assange. We got it all. And I added the Bernie Sanders one, so fair enough. Also, we added the Comic-Con thing. Guys, thank you all for showing up. If you guys enjoy this content, you find yourself coming back here often, please share, like, subscribe. And of course, you can always support through PayPal or Patreon. And again, guys, I really do appreciate your support for the channel. You guys really do help make this channel. So, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. And we are...